Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obithorian Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we are reviewing the 12. If you like the sound of that, like and subscribe and stick around.
What is the premise of the talk?
Well, the plot in the 12 is this show is based off a Belgium miniseries, and it focuses on Kate Lawson that is allegedly on trial for killing her niece, and it focuses on the 12 jurors that are on jury, focusing on their personal lives and trying to see why they come to the verdict that they come to.
Yes, it's quite unique in that trying to see how their own personal life, circumstances and prejudice impact their final decision. Plus you get to see kind of the inner workings of the legal system, which is cool. So it stars Sam Neill. What's Sam Neill famous from?
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, he's obviously in a lot of things. National treasure here in Australia. We've got Brooke Satchwell. She's in a lot of Australian drama shows. The most famous one she's in, but she's in quite a lot.
It also got renewed for a season 2, so if you're wondering, does it end on a cliffhanger? It concludes this season, but there will be a season 2.
Yeah, very intrigued to see how season 2 goes. So, getting into the score, what do you give the plot of the 12?
I gave it a 7. The plot, I did like it when it did focus on the case, but when it focused on the jury members, I liked that it did, because when we talk about the uniqueness, I'll get to why I liked it for that reason. But when it comes to the plot, I felt like there were so many storylines. The writing felt very off to do when it comes to the plot, but I still liked when it focused on the main storyline. But I guess the point of the 12 is that the main story was focusing on them, and the case is a side story. But I guess with how my brain works, with how watching crime dramas, it's the other way around, and that's how it's very unique. So I guess the plot, it's different how it's written, so I guess that's how the plot is.
I gave the plot a 7.5. I liked the premise. I kind of liked how it was all laid out. I did like that it focused on the jury members and gave their prejudice they came with, but some of the stories were not that interesting, but then some were very interesting, so it was kind of hit and miss there. So what about the act?
This gets a 9. This is a very strong aspect of the show. If they didn't nail the moments with their personal lives, you wouldn't believe it, and they very much did. This is what keeps you watching, is the acting, and they very much did what they were supposed to do, and it was very believable, and it kept you wanting to find out if she was guilty or not and see their own personal lives.
I gave it an 8.5. Pretty decent cast for an Australian show. In terms of Australian acting, this is about as good as it gets for an Australian drama, and it did a really good job. The presentation experience of this
gets an 8. I really enjoyed how they went in flashbacks and the different timelines with how they filmed it, and the experience of watching that was, at first it was a little bit confusing, and then once you realised how they did the storytelling, it was really magnificent, and I did like the experience, and visually it was very impressive as well, yeah.
So I gave the presentation 8.5. I think the way they ordered it, the flashbacks, the suspense, how it didn't give away what was going to happen, it wasn't too predictable, was it really, really good, which is not usually the case for these types of shows, so it did that really well. How do you rate the ending, and does that change now that you know there's a season 2?
I found for season 1 that the ending was satisfying, but I'm left confused with how they're going to do a season 2 unless it's an anthology series. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more, but I'm left wondering why do they need to drag it out, because the Belgium version only had 1 season, so it very much feels like truth be told that they only needed to do one season. So for this season, it was satisfying, but part of me is thinking they don't need more.
So I gave the ending an 8.5. I thought it was different. It wasn't predictable. It wasn't what you expected. It was quite dark and sad in the end, and I definitely didn't see. I kind of had an idea of what may have happened, but I didn't see it turning out the way it did. So it did a really good job of that. So I think the ending was one of the strongest things about it. How original was this show?
This gets its high score of 9. Like I said, when I think about the originality, really scores highs because they told a different story with the jury members and focusing on them and their lives and seeing why they gave the score. And that's why they do focus on the case, but not as much. And they kind of did the verse, what to me, I personally liked it when they focused on the case, but if they didn't focus on the jury members, the show wouldn't have worked. So for me, that's why it scores very highly on the uniqueness.
I also gave it a 9 for originality and uniqueness, even though it is based upon something that's already been done. I hadn't seen that before. So it was different, unique, and again, for a show that had a twist and you had to try and guess who the killer was or what had happened, they disguised it well, and it wasn't the usual twist where these shows where you think it could be a group of people or one could be guilty, and then in the end it's someone that they never showed you before and you're like, I couldn't have guessed that. They didn't do that. They just kept it with the characters within, but kind of put a twist on it, which I liked. What about its appeal? We had 10 people in a room. Let's go 10 Australians. How many of them could you recommend the show?
I would say 5 because not every Australian likes drama. I think I could definitely convince half in the room because not every Australian would like. It is a very dark and gruesome show, but I definitely could convince half Australians, and even if it was not everyone was Australian, I could definitely get half of the people in the room to watch it. I think it's that good of a show that half would watch it.
Yeah, I've given it the same mark, 5. I think there's a lot of people that it's just going to be a bit too gruesome or serious for them, but I think it sounds quite appealing being a strange show. The thing it hurts it the most is probably being on Binge. Not that Binge isn't a good streaming service. No, I don't think Binge or having Foxtel is that common anymore, so it's probably not going to get as many eyes as it would if it was on a Netflix or Disney or something. How recommendable is this show?
I gave this a 6. For me, it's very much heavy and it feels like it's very draining, and it does go for a long time. So if you're someone that find that you get time value in something that you can't focus a lot, you're not going to watch this show. But if you're someone that loves to experience something and a great story, you would love this show. So for me, I think it is recommendable to some people, but not everyone.
So I gave it a 7.5. I think that based upon all the things prior to this, I think I could get a lot of people across the line to want to give this show a watch, even though at first glance they may not be interested. Once hearing the perspective of someone that has seen it, I think fairly recommendable. How rewatchable is it?
For me, it's a 3. The only reason I would watch it again is to pick up on the little things, but once you have watched it, it's kind of, there's so many storylines that it feels like fluff, but that's because it focuses on the 12 jury, but does get political with so many, stereotypical lesbian storylines, indigenous storylines, and then when they have someone that's on the spectrum or is different, they don't focus on him, and some jury members they don't even focus on. So it does get political, and some people might not like that, so that's why I would find it hard to watch it again.
I gave it a 5. I think it is rewatchable, but with anything like this, once you know the twist, you could only watch it again trying to pick up little finer details like Jacob said, and I don't think there's a lot in this. But as we talk about, I kind of do want to watch it again because I appreciate it more now as time goes past. So I do think it's rewatchable, but not super rewatchable. So what was your total score?
Out of 100%, it gets a 69%. I think it's worth watching. As an Australian, it's a month, but I think as a world show comparing to other shows, I don't think it quite measures up. I think it is a show that I think you could watch, but I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think it holds up compared to the massive shows, but I do think it is worth watching. If you're Australian, it is a must, but not everyone that is Australian would want to watch it.
So my score's totaled to 74%. Really think it did well for an Australian drama. I would say it's a good limited series, but it's not. There's a second season coming, but even if you were to just watch this, it concludes, it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, so you could watch it as a limited series. Hoping season 2 is just as good. I'd like to see the direction it goes, so I think 74% is pretty good for, yes, an Australian show.
Well, if you like this video, there's videos at the end. As always, comment down your thoughts. Did we get the scores right or wrong? As always, like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.